MSNBC panel discusses banning all firearms after LGBTQ terrorist massacres Catholic children in Minneapolis. Come and take it. MSNBC panel talks banning all firearms after so-called trans shooter targets Catholic school. Wednesday on MSNBC, Mike Spies appeared in a roundtable discussion with host Katy and others. After the LGBTQ terrorist massacred Catholic children in Minnesota, the panelists discussed the shooting and how to prevent such violence moving forward. Naturally, being MSNBC, they focused on the weapons rather than the LGBTQ terrorist.
The numbers that you've pointed out, and you pointed out them a little bit earlier, the majority of Americans don't own guns, and the majority of Americans want stricter gun laws.
Right. Right. I mean, I guess it's a matter of what gets prioritized at the polls, which is to say, I mean, I suppose people think that other things are more important, and that's what they vote on first. But I do think that there's honestly, a lack of knowledge among lawmakers. I mean, I think like the same playbook has been enforced since background checks were first introduced in the 90s and the assault weapons ban. And we kind of always go back to those things instead of thinking of new ideas, and also being honest that, like, for example, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which we were talking about earlier, if I'm going to be totally frank and honest, was a pretty worthless bill. Nobody wants to.
We had Chris Brady on.
Right.
Murphy. I'm sorry, Chris Brown on from Brady, who was arguing that that was actually a very big deal.
No, it was a feel-good bill. It is valuable on the margins, and I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about red flag laws, which allow, a person to petition a court to have guns taken from their loved one temporarily. But that's like such an abdication of responsibility. That, again, puts the issue back on regular people to police their loved ones, which isn't really appropriate. I mean, I think it's either like you have to be honest and say what will actually work, which is what nobody wants to hear, which is that there are just simply way too many firearms and they're way too accessible. And even if
they're too powerful?
And they're too powerful. Even handguns, too. Again, that's why in Australia, it doesn't matter if it's not politically acceptable to say it. I'm not here as a politician or anyone who works in politics. I'm a journalist. Whether or not you like it, the only thing that really works, if you really wanted to bring down gun violence, was to do what Australia did and to do what many other countries in Europe do. I realize I will get so much hate mail over this. People will tell me that I'm a communist and all of these other things, and I'm so terrible, which also only reinforces the point, as I will definitely get, some sort of like
blowback.
Not just blowback, but like threatening blowback.
Right. Come and take it. I dare you. Isn't it interesting? They always got to blame the gun. They always have to blame the firearm. Never the LGBTQ terrorist, because they use that as a pretext. The gun grabbers. They never want to address the real problem, and it's the individuals. And why don't they ever suggest arming the schools? There have been school shooters in the past that skipped schools on their way to shoot up a school because they saw that there was armed security. If we arm up our schools to protect American children, we will save American children's lives. That's what needs to happen. Lean into the Second Amendment, not delete it. Speaking of the woke mainstream media, Scott Jennings triggers CNN panel over politicized science at CDC after protest resignation of woke pronoun-using official. Republican commentator Scott Jennings triggered the CNN panel on Thursday night's edition of Newsnight with Abby Phillip when he brought up the use of the term pregnant people by a woke CDC official in his protest resignation letter this week. The resignation letter posted Wednesday night by Dimitri C. Daskalakis, MD, MPH, pronouns he, his, him, whatever that means, over the firing of CDC Director Susan Moneres. Reads in part, "I am unable to serve in an environment that treats CDC as a tool to generate policies and materials that do not reflect scientific reality and are designed to hurt rather than to improve the public's health. The recent change in the adult and children's immunization schedule threatened the lives of the youngest Americans and pregnant people." Jennings used the letter as an example of politicized science at the CDC.
He did use the term pregnant people in his resignation.
Oh, come
letter.
on.
And I'm sorry, if that is like, if that is like the way you're, if that is like the way you're presenting information, I have questions about your credibility.
Scott, it's so amazing.
It's not a ruse. He really wrote it down.
We are talking
about this guy's not credible to me. That's all I'm telling you.
Scott, are you serious?
Come on.
No, he is not credible.
No. Are you serious that this is
yes, he did write it.
That of all the things that we're talking about here, immunizations, vaccines, autism, the research about on communicable diseases, on cancer, and you are the most concerned about someone's use of the word people.
Yeah, because
that's the most important thing
because you were just complaining about the politicization of science, and I can't think of politicization of science more than that, or of what some of these people said to the American people during COVID. So the credibility of some of these folks who are complaining. Look.
Okay, so
I'm complaining, and I'm a public health and preventive medicine physician.
I understand the rhetoric and the political.
You realize that you're accepting some politicization of science, but not others, right?
What's the politicization of science that's been accepted?
Can men get pregnant or not?
Scott,
if you're in the CDC and you believe that, I'm saying you're not a terribly credible person.
The CDC that is responsible for the health and well-being of the nation.
That has absolutely nothing.
Nothing
to do with
it does.
Low IQ DEI hires. Just yapping. Cancer, acne rosacea, multiple sclerosis, and rheumatoid arthritis are 4 different diseases in 4 different areas of medicine. What if they can all be treated with parasite medication, and that turns out for these diseases to be true? What if I told you that if you had a pet or ate sushi, you are more likely to have parasites? This means that a lot of our ailments that we experience every day are caused not by environmental issues, but by parasites as well. This is something Big Pharma does not want you to know about. I know many of us check off many of these boxes. This is why Purge is offering their new liver cleanse products. For all of you out there that need to clear those toxins out once and for all, PurgeStore.com offers everything you need to cleanse and detox your body. Powerful enzymes and probiotics, 15-day colon cleanse protocols, liver cleanse, and of course, the parasite cleanse. Right now, if you go to PurgeStore.com and use promo code DREW, that's DREW, you will get 20% off your entire order. Use the link in the description below, PurgeStore.com, and support the Gateway Pundit today. The Gateway Pundit is supported by the people, we the people, that is you, the American people. We thank you for your support. Speaking of woke DEI hires, Chicago's far-left Mayor Brandon Johnson signs protective order to try and block Trump's National Guard deployment, vows to take any action necessary. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order on Saturday titled the Protecting Chicago Initiative, aimed to protecting the potential deployment of the National Guard by President Donald Trump to address the city's rampant crime issues. Johnson, a far-left Democrat, claims the order is necessary to defend residents' constitutional rights amid fears of what he calls an unconstitutional and illegal military occupation. The order reaffirms that the Chicago Police Department will stay under local control and explicitly calls on Trump to stand down from any National Guard threats. Johnson said, "I do not take this executive action lightly. I would have preferred to work more collaboratively to pass legislation. But unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of time. We have received credible reports that we have days, not weeks, before our city sees some kind of militarized activity by the federal government." Well, this is what Democrats do via their inaction or their so-called policy or lack thereof. They're the ones that defunded the police. They're the ones that want to destroy communities, cities, America as a whole, open borders. Now all of a sudden these people care about American lives and policing? Not at all. All these people ever care about, even 100 years from now, is opposing Donald Trump. RFK Jr. will conduct studies for the first time if America's over-medication and psychiatric drugs may be driving violence epidemic. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. is breaking through the media silence on an uncomfortable truth. America may be fueling its own violence epidemic through psychiatric drugs pushed by Big Pharma. RFK Jr. declared that for the first time, the federal government is conducting real studies to determine whether America's sky-high dependence on psychiatric medications is tied directly to the surge in random, senseless shootings that have horrified communities coast to coast.
I certainly consider mass shootings a health crisis, and we are doing, for the first time, real studies to find out what the etiology of that is. And we're looking for the first time at psychiatric drugs. You know, these kind of mass shooting, people have had guns in this country forever. When I was a kid, we had shooting clubs at our school. People, kids, my classmates, other people, would bring a .22 rifle with their guns to school and park it in the parking lot. Nobody was shooting. So there's never been a time in America, in the history of humanity, and people walked into a crowd, into a church or a movie theater or a school or a crowd of strangers and just started randomly shooting. It's happening in our country. It's not happening around the world. And there are many other countries that have comparable levels of guns that we have in this country. We had comparable levels in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and people weren't doing that. Something changed, and it dramatically changed human behavior. And one of the culprits we need to examine is whether the fact that we are the most over-medicated nation in the world, and that a lot of those are psychiatric drugs that have black box warnings on them that warn of suicidal and homicidal ideation. So we are doing those studies right now for the first time, and we will have an answer.
Well, there's also a spiritual component in this as well. It's called total depravity. The Bible talks about this. Romans chapter 1. Remove God from the heart. Remove God from the mind. Remove God from education, school, the Bible's influence. Remove Christ from government, politics, everything you could think of. There will be a massive negative impact and consequence as a result. Evil will run rampant. You really want to make America great again? It's time to start submitting to God and biblical truth. Period. My name is Drew Hernandez for the Gateway Pundit, and you have been on Watch with Drew Hernandez. I'll see you guys on the next one.